Fast am I, good afternoon. Welcome along to Manx Radio's Mannin Line for Tuesday. Oh, it's the last one of the month, 31st of March. And it's Alex with you for the final time. Andy returns on April Fool's Day. There is no link between those two before you say it. Right, it's an open line through until 1 o'clock this afternoon. Do give me a call on 66 13 68. What would you like to chat about? Well, in the news, the Chief Minister, Alfred Cannon, insists that government is taking fuel prices seriously. What does that mean, though? How is it affecting you? And also, should we be charging people even more to come here as a tourist? What's your thoughts on the proposed tourism levy? That and any other topic you'd like to talk about, do give me a call, 66 13 68. It will be lovely to talk to you this afternoon. And that, along with the idea of this new initiative, which encourages people to travel to the Isle of Man whilst practising their Manx to mark the year of the Manx language, of course. The new Mannin passport is going to see participants collect stamps every time they speak the island's mother tongue. Do you think this is the way of maybe getting you to pick up bits of Manx if you don't speak it already? Maybe try it a bit for the year of the Manx language? Please do let me know your thoughts on that. 66 13 68. As always, it's much more fun to talk to you on the phones than it is to maybe read out just your text. A few messages that I didn't get time to yesterday. Speaking of tourism, Anthony sent me a message yesterday saying, is tourism advertising aimed at disadvantaged study groups in Lancashire, Cheshire, Merseyside and the Wirral, with a partnership with the Steam Packet when seats are empty? Oh, I see your point. So as in, if basically almost offering empty seats at a discounted rate in order to fill them up, because an empty seat at a discounted rate is better than an empty seat. I see your point at that. And thank you to Liz yesterday, who said, in the 1970s, the Isle of Man government issued us with a book of petrol coupons and told garages that they would prioritise their regular customers. It was never needed in the end, and we didn't expect government to bail us out, just to economise. Oh, that's an interesting point there, Liz. Question is, how do you economise? What do you cut out of your daily life in order to cut down on fuel, do you think? Okay, at home, put on more jumpers, turn the heating off, have cold showers, yes. Driving to places, well, we only go to school 3 days a week, because, let's be honest, we have got to a society now where everything is expected to travel into something. There's one cash machine in Ramsey that works. Otherwise, if you want to go to HSBC Bank, you now have to go all the way to Douglas. Things like that, because we've got used to the fact that businesses are now planning, and government services, everyone's planning on the fact that you drive somewhere, so you don't need to put satellite branches of banks. You don't need little village schools anymore. They're big schools. It's all based around driving. So the question is, Liz, how would we economise? I'd be interested to hear your thoughts on that. And Brian says, is petrol or diesel that expensive per litre compared to a cup of coffee? A flat white in Costa is now £4.05. You can do a lot more on a litre of fuel than a cup of coffee. My advice would be to cut back on your coffee intake. I see your logic in that one, Brian. I'm not going to lie. I don't think, well, for a start, I didn't drink coffee. But I don't think maybe giving up one Costa a week is going to allow you the extra 23 odd pounds to fill your tank. But I like where you're going with your idea there. Right, let's get to the phones then. Betty is on. Hello, Betty. Good afternoon.
Hello, handsome.
Hello, lovely. How are you?
Don't worry, I'm just taking a pity about myself. Not you.
It's absolutely fine, Betty. Not a problem. What would you like to chat about?
It's about Manx Care.
Yes.
Last week, you asked me would I sack Manx Care, and I wasn't sure. Well, I thought about it, and the answer is yes, I would. Since Manx Care took over, the Isle of Man has only got worse. And they blamed COVID for everything, but I'm not sure that's it. 5 years ago, we could usually access our own GP probably the next day when we had a health problem. And it was our own GP, somebody we knew and who knew us quite a bit. But nowadays, we just get any old GP. And 5 years ago, if we needed emergency care, we could go to either Nobles or Ramsey Cottage Hospital. Not so today. 5 years ago, if we went to the A&E in Nobles, we didn't have to wait most of the day and probably some of the night to be seen, but we do now.
I mean, Betty, do you think this is the fault of Manx Care, or do you maybe think that this problem would have happened anyway if it was still the Department of Health and Social Care directly running the operation? Do you feel it's a lack of funding over the years? I mean, you mentioned A&E there, and they've said that the A&E we've got at Nobles isn't fit for purpose. Well, it'll be Treasury that'll be saying yes or no as to whether they can build a bigger one. So do you think it's directly Manx Care's fault, or do you think it's generally how it's just was going to go anyway?
I'm not really sure, but I mean, what they're doing isn't working. I mean, they instituted a diversity SAR, but we don't need one on the island. Nobles is full of diversity, and also they introduced, probably to make it look good, 3 matrons, symbolic matrons, which we have to pay for and don't care. I think they've wasted quite a bit of money, and they're not attracting doctors.
Do you feel, then, Betty, that the specific roles aside, because I'm not a person with a healthcare background, so I don't know. Those matrons might have very good uses. Like when people say get rid of the managers, and you go, well, actually, they perform a function that you won't know if you're not on the inside. But do you feel we're constantly at crisis management? That you're sitting there, that you say quite rightfully, we want to attract doctors, but actually they're almost peddling furiously to keep the day-to-day going.
I know, I understand that, but they have to think outside the box. They have to do something different, and they're not doing it. I don't know whether what we had before would work any better, but it's just so obvious that Manx Care isn't working.
It's a bit like, is that definition of insanity, Betty, that is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result?
Yes, I think so, probably.
All right, Betty. Well, thank you very much for your call and answering that question I put to you last week. It's lovely to chat to you, so I hope you have a lovely day. Betty there has thought about that question. Should we keep Manx Care or should we bin off Manx Care? Is it a failed experiment? And in Betty's opinion, she feels it's a failed experiment. Wilf is on. Wanted to talk about fuel prices. How are you diddling down north, Wilf?
Oh, not too bad.
Good.
I'm thinking of going out for a little bit. Anyway.
Yes.
I didn't ring you to tell me how I was, or you asked me how I was.
I've just been polite.
Because I'm knackered. At my age, I'm always knackered.
Obviously.
Now then, just there's another twist on the fuel situation.
Yep.
I mean, this is serious stuff because we don't know how long it's going to go on for. Till they do something, wherever this is happening, I don't know.
And I think, Wilf, to be honest, they've already said that, if the war stopped tomorrow in the Middle East, the effects would be carrying on for a while. It'd be like ripples in the ocean, wouldn't it?
Well, that's it, you see. Now then, the thing was, a few years ago, there was a couple of clever people started to make biodiesel. And they got going and they were doing very well. And a lot of people was buying it because it's supposed to be sort of this half-green nonsense. But anyway, they were buying it, doing very well. But then our greedy government stuck their nose in and said, they're doing too well. We're going to tax the diesel they make. And that effectively put them out of business then. Now, I think that, but that's my version. They should apologize to these people and tell them, would they please start up again if they could, and we won't tax you because we need your diesel. I mean,
it's a bit like
if anybody.
It was a bit like we were talking yesterday, Wilf, wasn't it? That maybe we need to think outside the box here, and instead of the standard way of we import it and the tax gets slapped on it. Can we actually work a different way here? The only thing I'd question is, do we have the power? Because I know that our fuel duty is set by the UK. Would we have the power to not tax biodiesel if it was made locally, or does the UK slap that on us as well?
I don't see why not. I don't see why not. It's nothing to do with the government. It was all done privately. It was done with private stuff. It was used oil, used cooking oil they were using, gathered from anywhere at all, which is only getting dumped anyway. I mean, I've used it myself. I mean, I don't mean I bought it myself. I've made it myself. So there's no problem about that.
I was going to say, in terms of the usage of biodiesel, from that, did the vehicles run okay on it? Did the machines run okay on it?
Perfectly.
Okay.
Perfectly. The only problem with it was, if you would leave a vehicle for any length of time, like a few years, like a digger or something like that, the fat out of the used cooking oil would sink to the bottom of the tank.
Oh, right.
And maybe clog up the outlet. But that's only if you left it for a long time.
Yeah, but machines generally, Wilf, you know this from your background, machines have to be kept used and turning over and maintained anyway, don't they?
Yeah, but continuously used, it was absolutely fine.
Okay.
No problem whatsoever.
Okay.
And I think they should ask them to try and put this together again, put their plant together again. I think there was 2 or 3 of them had to go. They were even selling it up at Laxey, at the Fairy Cottage garage.
Yeah, it was at the top of the Fairy Cottage, yeah.
Yes, and I think it would be a good gesture from our greedy government to ask them again to have a go. Okay.
Oh, thank you very much, Wilf. Good suggestion there from Wilf. It's a good point, you see, for those of us with that memory. Yeah, I remember it at the Fairy Cottage in Laxey, the biodiesel. I think Andrew Smith, who's the MHK for Garth, used to be involved somewhere around there. I'm not, that's not 100%. But yes, I do remember that. So what do you think? Should we start, trying to mitigate the situation, softening the blow? I'm pretty sure that we probably couldn't produce enough biodiesel to replace the amount of diesel vehicles we have on the island, noticed by how we ran out over the weekend. There's a lot of people that require it, but it might soften the blow a bit. What's your thoughts? 6613 68. On the topic of fuel, the Chief Minister does insist that the government is taking fuel prices rises seriously, but one MHK says the public needs to know before April's sitting of Tynwald, which of course is a couple of weeks away. Alfred Cannon, MHK, told the House of Keys this morning that the Treasury Minister, Chris Thomas, will provide a further update at next month's sitting of the Parliament. He confirmed government is following a number of key principles, including holding weekly meetings, setting up industry monitoring bodies and protecting fuel supplies. But Ramsey MHK, Laurie Hooper, asked for more detail on this.
What I'm really looking for is something a bit more tangible, I think. The reason that I've asked this question is I tabled it last week, even before the Chief Minister had made his statement about what was going on. I felt necessary to leave it on because it didn't feel like the government had appreciated the urgency of some of the situation here. I very much appreciate the Chief Minister saying we need to take a long-term view and plan for what's going to happen over the winter. But as of right now, oil prices in the UK have effectively doubled for heating home costs, and that's now. We know that deliveries hitting the Isle of Man now are far more expensive than they were last week and the week before. I'm not entirely convinced that vulnerable people can wait until April Tynwald to find out what it is that government is proposing to do. Can the Chief Minister provide us with some reassurance that actually something is going to happen to support people who may need support now, as opposed to having to wait until much later in the year before the government gets its act together?
Chief Minister.
So, as I outlined, our response will be precise and targeted. Clearly, there is a section of society, particularly those on home heating oil, who are impacted. I mean, obviously, I accept there are fuel increases at the pumps as well, which are more broadly impacting us. And, of course, there's a knock-on impact probably in terms of food pricing and possibly inflation, and some data on information starts to come through. We have information in terms of some now impacts in terms of industries, some force majeure being applied in terms of contractual arrangements. So there's a whole host of things that are going across society. When it comes down to the individuals in society, particularly those who are most exposed, it is those on heating oil. At the moment, gas pricing is stable and controlled, as is electricity pricing. So if we take action, fundamentally it's working out, if we're going to target it, how we target successfully those on home heating oil. Honourable members will know, and clearly from their own constituent base, that those individuals who have ordered oil have had to wait some weeks for delivery to arrive, and indeed at the point of ordering were not actually given clarity on the price. I've still not, even today, had an exact price in terms of that home heating oil when it arrives. I want to say to the Honourable Member again today, we are taking this seriously, but we do need the evidence base and we need to be targeted in our response. The Treasury Minister will give an update in April, Tim Wood, and I'm sure he appreciates the difficulty of this situation. And once you start to give support, even targeted support, the pressure obviously grows on the government to give support in other areas, and as he will also know, it's not always that easy to get it defined to the narrowest point.
That's the Chief Minister, Alfred Cannon, talking in the House of Keys this morning. So do you feel government is taking it seriously, or do you think they're slow to act? What's your opinion listening to that? Was there a lot of talk, not much action? Well, also, there was a bit of action in the Keys this morning. It's rare on the Isle of Man you see public unrest, but Mr Cannon was responding to an urgent question over the steam packet fuel surcharge increases, and whilst answering a question from Onca member Rob Collister, the Chief Minister was heckled by a member of the public who was then ejected from the sitting.
What worries me is the fact is the Chief Minister says we're not in the same position as we were in 22-23. But if you actually look at this, Mr Speaker, the general costs have not actually gone down from 22-23, and I'm more than happy to take the Chief Minister around Tesco to actually show him that the cost of living is still higher today than it was in 2022-23. But I do accept the point what he says about patience, and therefore my question to the Chief Minister is, will the Isle of Man government be ready for the autumn and winter period when this really does start to hit people at home?
So I'm sorry, Honourable Member, but the fuel surcharge, the freight fuel surcharge, is significantly lower than what it was in 22-23.
You haven't answered the question yet.
Order! Order! Right, could I ask the messenger, please, to ask that person to be removed from the gallery? Chief Minister, you have the floor.
There we go. Speaker of the House of Keys, June Watterson, having that lady kicked out, ejected from the public sitting because I was heckling the Chief Minister. Right, it's 20 past 12. In a moment, we're going to talk to Quirky about the DOI just after this.
Tonight here on Manx Radio at 5:30, join Kiri Kermode and myself, Simon Clark, for Countryside.
I'll be catching up with Ruth Mead from Red Mye. We'll be talking about springtime on the farm, Manx March, and getting Manx locked in on the menus around the Isle of Man.
Seneca Stew gets underway this week. I'll be finding out how things are going in preparation from June Garrett. And also, I speak about contractors' problems on the Isle of Man in the farming community, particularly in the light of possible fuel rises, with contractor Kenny Cool.
That's all in Countryside tonight here on Manx Radio at 5:30. And don't forget, you can download and subscribe to the podcast for free at manxradio.com.
This is my last will and testament. To my family, I leave years of financial headaches, large legal bills, and the prospect of having to sell our home to pay for it all.
Is that the legacy you choose to leave? Without a proper will and thorough planning, it could happen. Benham Advocates, experiencing wills, probate and estate planning with a friendly service to make sure the future of your loved ones are secure. Don't put it off. Call 639 350 for your free initial consultation with Benham. Here for you.
Most builders start with a hammer and saw. Manx Construction start with ideas and imagination. For new build, extension or home office, Manx Construction offer full service from planning to completion. Call Tony on 452 688.
Carpetland, the carpet specialist with the island's best value carpets in stock, often fitted within a week. Furnitureland, for three-piece suites, dining and living room furniture, and a selection of amazing beds. Carpetland and Furnitureland, West Street, Ramsey.
Manx Memorials in Ballasalla will guide you in creating beautiful, lasting memorials across the island. From a wide range of granite and marble headstones, custom inscriptions, expert renovations and pet memorials, adding care and compassion in every detail. We offer families peace of mind for years with perpetual grave care. We're there when you need them most. Call 843 861 or email matthew@manxmemorials.co.uk.
Get ready for the Great Silverdale Adventure at Silverdale Cafe Ballasalla. From the 3rd to the 19th of April, explore the Glen to find hidden Easter eggs. Collect all the clues to reveal the location of the golden egg and discover the secret code word for the chance to win a luxury Easter egg and £100 cash prize each week. Entry forms available from the cafe with any purchase, or find us on Facebook for more information. The Great Silverdale Adventure at Silverdale Cafe, coming soon.
Manx Radio's Man in Line for Tuesday, 12:25. Got a full switchboard, which is lovely, so we'll get to your calls as soon as possible. David's on. Hello, Quirky, how are you? Oh, yes, the David Quirk mysterious line that never works. Oh, bless, let's try once more. Go on. Quirky, are you there? No! Right. Chris, the producer, will ring you back. Oh, dear. I thought we'd managed to solve that gremlin. Sorry, Quirky. He wants to talk about the DOI. We will chat to Quirky before the end of the programme. But Julian's on. Julian, can you hear me?
Yeah, how are you doing, mate?
I'm not so bad. You're obviously not on the cursed line. So how's things with you? What you want to talk about today?
The hospice, although just briefly,
Yep.
I do notice that on the 11th of March, the International Energy Agency, which is 32 countries that produce oil, they did the largest release of 400 million barrels of oil to soften the effect of any price spikes. I mean, the US alone released 172 million barrels, Canada 24, Japan 80. So is this the traders are just artificially jacking this up? Because there's not a problem with supply. And as they said on the news earlier, they're expecting supplies to stabilise. So is this just the market just playing us up? Because if you've got 400 million barrels of oil that have just the largest extra release in history, is this just all a bit of theatre?
Well, that's a very good question. It's obviously one I can't answer, but yes, you're right. Of the 11th of March, the different regions did actually increase stocks by 400 million barrels. Now, the majority of that went to the Americas, 172 million barrels of that. Europe only got 32 out of the total amount of government stocks, and then there's the industry stock. So the government obviously has a stock, and then industry has a stock as well. But yeah, that I suppose we've always been. If you look back to the oil crisis of the 70s, we're always at the beck and call of basically, if we want fuel, someone somewhere in the fuel producing nations will demand a price. And there's only a certain amount that we can do to mitigate that, isn't there?
Yeah, and the Strait of Hormuz only does 20% of world oil supply, so 80% is okay. Yet the price has just jumped 50p a litre. Doesn't make any sense. Something else, I quite agree with what Betty said earlier about Manx Care. It's just been a complete bane on our finances since that thing was brought in. But the plans for the hospice, you can let me know if I've got this right, Alex.
Go on.
They're talking about a 3-week redundancy process for staff at the hospice, and several services will be transferred from hospice to the hospital, like occupational and physiotherapy, along with lymphedema services. This is despite at least £3.5 million of donations recently being spent on enhanced therapy and rehabilitation facilities at the hospice. I also understand that the Nobles Hospital therapy appointments are already up at 10 months or more. So what's going to happen to appointment waiting lists when hospice patients are transferred from their separate dedicated facility? I mean, isn't this going to make this... I mean, everyone's complaining about the appointments list. How is this going to help anyone? David Ashford also said to me on Friday that the hospice total annual budget is $7 million. Well, considering that Manx Care increased its spend this year alone by $50 million, if that increase had been controlled and not happened, they could have paid for hospice outright for over 7 years. I believe that the latest Manx Care figure is $412 million for this year alone. So why are they quibbling about a 1/59th of Manx Care's budget, $7 million?
I suppose
also, you've got
I suppose, Julian, the thing with hospice is that in terms of the redundancies and the services that they're cutting, unlike a government department or maybe like Manx Care that can come back to the government for money, they are obviously a standalone charity and a business, and they receive funding from the Department of Health for for certain services. But the big question here is that they aren't allowed to effectively make a loss. So whilst they've been dipping into their reserves, they've had to make a business decision to say, actually, we've got to live within our means. Now, what you're raising there is the topic that was kind of discussed to a degree with the health minister's statement this morning in Keys, which is that really are we at a stage where the government needs to provide more funding for the hospice services and not keep on relying on the third sector and charitable giving to provide these services?
Yeah, I mean, the cost of hospice would be a few days of what Manx Care is getting through every day. It begs another question. David Ashford said that paying a quarter of the hospice budget is giving them priority. I wonder, if assisted dying starts on the island, will that only receive a quarter of its funding requirements, or is that going to be fully funded right from the start? And if it is fully funded, how is that going to be a choice when hospice and palliative care is clearly only getting a quarter of its funding? But, one of the things we could do to start, and this will resonate with you, Alex, why don't we start by making government accountable for all the profligate, unwise spending? Like, for example, let's look at the horse tram rails. That's close to your heart.
Mm-hmm.
That was originally scoped for 1 million.
Yep.
How much extra is it going to cost now to put it in? It's not going to be one. I mean, I've seen 2 to 3 million. Well, that 2 extra million, that might have stopped people being made redundant at the hospice. What about 400,000 spent on unwanted 20-mile-an-hour zone signs, or a £900,000 seawall? And, they've just recently been talking about, we can spend 18 million on a Ramsey seawall. So what is this rubbish about a few million to actually help people at end of life? It's like this money's been thrown around, net zero, 500 plus million. 4 million just been spent on an environmental impact assessment at Erie Stain.
And a lot of it. I agree. That the government wastage, and let's be honest, it's not just narrows down to the Isle of Man. Government wastage is everywhere in various different governments. But when it comes to the spending and who agrees what money goes where, it all comes back to the department that actually a lot of the time just stands there in the shadows, but holds the ultimate power, which is Treasury. They own the purse strings. They say yes or no to business cases, and they should be weighing up, in their opinion, what has a better business case than others. Now, sadly, a lot of that, the Treasury Board is made up of, I think, 3 politicians, effectively, the Minister and there's 2 other political members. So in terms of being representative maybe of what the public want, it might not be considered fully accountable with what the public want. It's more what's written on a piece of paper.
Yeah, but the plans that they're talking about for hospice make no sense whatsoever. You're going to load up already overstretched services at Nobles, sending people over from a facility that has everything it needs there for what ostensibly is a few days worth of what Manx Care is getting through. They're getting through 412 million. I mean, there's 365 days in the year. A few days you've paid for hospice. Why the quibbling?
It's a good point and well worth raising, and I'm sure we're going to hear more about it, Julian. So thanks for bringing that up. Much appreciated. Julian makes a point there. Should Manx Care be giving more of its money to hospice when it's a bit of a drop in the ocean? I suppose Manx Care would turn around and say, well, what would you like to drop in terms of what we're spending money on? Because they would argue that they don't have enough money anyway for all the other services they're providing. So the battle and the roundabout of financing would go on. Patrick's on and been waiting patiently. Patrick, you want to talk about getting a GP appointment?
Hello. Yeah, it's, the system seems a little bit broken where someone like myself who's fit enough to go down and stand outside.
Oh,
hello.
Oh, yeah, I'm still here. Yes, far away. Stand outside. Sorry. Yep.
The system seems a little bit broken. Where if you go down in the morning time, you can stand there and queue and get in maybe that day or another day. Whereas people who phone up, they can't they can't get through on the line to actually book an appointment, and they might be very ill, might be needing the doctor pretty soon. So really, I think a system has to come in place where you have to say what's wrong with you and prioritise those who are needed. Otherwise, people are going to go straight up to A&E, which is clog up A&E, which is totally wrong as well. So there has to be a system come in place. I know that people on the telephones are not medically qualified, but there must be a system they can use where you say what's wrong with you, and it basically is a category 1 to 5. You get prioritised that day, the next day, whatever it is. It's got to be a different system, because if I'm fit enough to walk down to the doctors and queue outside, I shouldn't get in that day, really.
So do you feel that they might actually require, what they turn around and say, in reality, we need more resources to put that system in place to make sure that the service is better? Would that be something that you would very much be in favour of?
Yeah, one person down there, I mean, I know the girls are very busy, but one person should say yes or no, this person can come in straight away or next day or the day after. But to try and get through on the lines and you're pretty ill is ridiculous, really, isn't it? I mean, you end up getting a taxi up to A&E if you were that bad.
That's a good point.
But someone like myself who's reasonably fit, if I had something wrong with me, I would get down there early morning, and I would get in maybe that day or the next day. It's wrong, really.
Okay.
Has to be a better system.
Okay, thank you, Patrick. It's a good point. Yeah, is there a better system for it's prioritising? I think is what Patrick is meaning there. In terms of, is there a better system to work out who is at the most need? Because you do find that if you can't get an appointment for something that you feel is very serious at the time, that yes, people go to A&E, clogs up A&E. It's not really what A&E is for, accident and emergency. And then we have the issues with A&E overcrowding as well. So how do we solve that? Well, that's in theory what we're paying Manx Care to do. But what is the solution? You can get in touch, 66 13 68. We're going to speak to John about fuel pricing after this.
Save 17% on the Loganair tartan sale with promo code SALE17. Book now at loganair.co.uk. T/Cs and exclusions apply, subject to availability.
A great night's sleep got even better with Zed's Bedding Store. From quality Beldorm bed linen and mattress protectors, fleece and woven throws, to luxury duvets from the fine bedding company. Zed's Bedding Ramsey, next to Isle of Man Bank.
One architectural design company has particular expertise in achieving planning approval for a wide variety of projects, from landmark buildings to spectacular homes. Talk to the experts at Ellis Brown and get your project off the ground. For excellence in design, search Ellis Brown.
Patricia Wild Opticians is celebrating over 30 years of friendly, caring service in Farm Hill and Ramsey. Visit us for professional eye care with stress-free parking. Phone Patricia Wild Opticians on 813 977.
The exclusive Karcher store is open with thousands of products, accessories and parts in stock. For Karcher sales and service, Hersham Electrical, Shipyard Industrial Estate, Ramsey.
What ho, Jeeves? Tell me, what's all this ballyhoo I hear about a beer festival?
I believe, sir, those fine fellows from Camera are putting it on from the 9th to the 11th of April at the Villa Marina.
What? With oodles of lovely real ale, cider, perry and whatnot?
Indubitably, sir.
I say, Jeeves, top hole. Make a note in my diary, would you? And be sure to wake me early on the day, say about noon, and we'll jolly well hop, skip and jump on down there.
Your wish, sir, is my command.
The Mannin Line. Daily interaction, debate and exchange of ideas. Broadcast on Manx Radio.
And it's 20 to 1. John's been waiting patiently on the line to talk about fuel. Good afternoon, John. Oh, goody. The tech manages to fail us again. Let's see if we can get hold of David Quirk, and we'll try and get back to John. Quirky, are you there? This is brilliant. Right. Well, We know for the now that line 2 and line 4 need a bit of a beating with a hammer. Whilst we wait for that to be sorted, let's go through some of your texts, shall we? Thank you to texter 566 who says, as a user of approximately 1,200 litres of diesel per week, this price increase is debilitating. The worst part is using white diesel in plant that was always on red until recently. The fuel bill was hard before this rise. Do you think that the plant hire sector will get any government support? Very doubtful. The fuel duty taken since plant went to white must be a sizable amount. Just so you know, on the facts for that, the switch from red to white diesel for plant hire and construction came in from April 2022 because the Isle of Man Treasury confirmed it had to follow the UK changes under the Customs and Excise Agreement. So the island could not set a different duty rate or keep the rebate for those sectors. So it means that plant hire, construction, similar industries now have to use fully duty-paid white diesel, and that's a permanent policy change rather than a temporary rise. There is, according to the Isle of Man government information, no specific government compensation or support scheme to offset the extra fuel duty for the plant hire sector. And just to confirm what you've said there, 566. I'm going to try Quirky, third time lucky. Let's see if he's there. David, can you hear me?
I can hear you, Alex. Can you hear me?
I can hear you loud and clear. Let's talk about the DOI, shall we?
Can I tell you first, where's your statement there? We don't kick people out of Parliament. Well, we do when the election comes up, but we don't kick them out. We just ask people to leave. And I was listening to it on the radio, to tell you the truth, and it brings me to the point which I was going to bring up today was we have a number of disinfected ministers or individuals of department who are not in there anymore and who are asking questions where Hayward used to be the minister of. She knows everything about it, but asking, to me, silly questions on things she already knows about. And we're getting to a point where even today, honestly, if people were listening to it, planning and stuff like that, what are we doing in our national parliament talking about planning issues?
Well, I suppose the issue is that it's a national parliament. They're the people who set the planning policy. And if you go and speak to any civil servant about anything, not just planning, they'll turn around and say, well, we're following the policy set by Tynwald. So if constituents are raising issues that, the policy's not been met, or the fact that the policy itself isn't fit for purpose, surely the national parliament needs to address that, don't they?
Well, the parliamentarians themselves can knock on the door. They can speak to the minister of, in this particular case, it's DEFA, it's not the DOI, and have a conversation and stop getting involved in minor issues when we've got so many national issues.
I agree, David. But before you go any further, the idea of popping and knocking on the door and having a bit of a chat, it's not really open and transparent democracy. You mentioned there, obviously, former Minister Hayward raising something that she already knew. Well, she's bringing it into the public domain because we are the voters, we are the taxpayers, and, having a matey chat in the corridor to get something sorted, surely it's better that something regarding policy is openly debated in the public in a public debate in the court, isn't it?
But this particular one is to do with the Liverpool landing stage. It's a legal document, and there's several issues going on between lawyers here and lawyers there. And she knows quite well, being a politician anyway, you can't get involved in legal issues. Politicians shouldn't get involved in legal issues. When you first become a politician, the first thing that Chief Secretary says to you is you can't get involved in legal issues. You can't give opinion. You're not a lawyer. You're not a court of justice or whatever. You're just an individual. That's what I'm saying. But quickly, can I go on to the levy thing?
Yes.
What an absolute joke about that. Bringing a piece of paper forward to talk about levying on. But the good thing...
This is the tourism levy, just for people to catch up on, yeah?
Sorry, yeah, tourism levy. But the biggest thing that the steam packet did was bring in people could travel if they were under 16s for free.
Mm.
And the amount of clubs, sporting organisations, and people who have travelled over the last year or so have been great. So why don't we put more emphasis into that now and saying to them, if you're bringing your kids from the UK, mother and father pay if you're over, say, 16, but the kids go free. What a marketing issue that would be.
Now, the interesting thing is, David, there's two sides to this tourism levy, because my initial thoughts are that, what you're doing is you're taxing and basically it's costing more. You're taxing the people that you want to attract, and there's nothing that's attractive about, let's charge you more money. But if you use an example such as, I know, an area of my interest, Disneyland in California, there is a tourist tax there, and the local state makes a huge amount of money on tourism tax because, of course, the people go there to see the attraction. But it does mean that the attraction is valued. So at the moment, you get the impression when it comes to heritage and culture, and I'll mention the dreaded horse trams and things like this again, that we don't really value them. Well, suddenly, if it's bringing a lot of money into the exchequer, the government might actually turn around and go, oh, actually, we do value these attractions more now because the tourists that are coming to see them are giving us more money. So there could be a flip side to it.
Well, the jury's out as far as I'm concerned on that. And let's have some discussion on that particular issue. That would be really good to find out what the public want. Because at the end of the day, people know what they're coming to the Isle of Man for. TT, Grand Prix, trials riding, the rallies and stuff like that. They're already marketed, aren't they? And the sports things come up. We're having a, next year, is it next year or the year after that? We're having the sport... I forgot what it's called now. It's not the Olympics, but you know what I mean.
The Island Games.
The Island Games is coming to the Isle of Man.
Yep.
And we've already invested there, down at the NSC there. They're going to renew the Astro pitch.
Mm-hmm.
I still haven't had my answer back. Can I have a piece of it?
Well, there we go.
I'll leave it
But we'll leave it at that then, David. If anyone knows, get in touch with David if he wants a bit of AstroTurf on the old pitch. But thanks so much, Quirky. Always love to hear from you, and finally got in touch with you. And we're going to try John again on the price of fuel. John, are you there?
Yes, I am, Alex. Good afternoon.
Sorry about the technical gremlins. Far away.
That's all right, mate. Yeah, well, I was involved in the road haulage industry for many, many years. And years ago, when diesel started to become popular, we were all led to believe that diesel fuel was manufactured, whatever you want to call it, from the lowest grade of crude oil that there was about, that was absolutely useless for anything else.
Right.
So they manufactured diesel, fine. Diesel was cheap. Diesel spares for engines and that sort of thing were quite expensive, but it levelled itself off. Now, evidently, they're trying to tell us that they're using that low-grade crude oil to manufacture petrol, home heating, everything else, and so you've got to pay more for it. It's still dirt cheap, and obviously their costs have increased if they've found ways of making it more useful. But why do they have to pass? Obviously, they've got to pass costs on, but why do they have to make enormous profits? And why does our government have to charge and take so much in tax, VAT, particularly for home heating fuel? Surely they could reduce it down to cost for them so that at least people can heat their homes.
I think, John, just to answer your question there, it's been confirmed that our government on the Isle of Man doesn't have any choice into how much tax and duty it charges as part of the customs and excise agreement with the UK. So it's the UK that sets it. I mean, the Manx government could offset that by giving grants and support back, but they're not allowed to actually change the rate. And to answer your question, my producer Chris has done a bit of digging that when it comes to a barrel of oil, a typical barrel, you get about 37% petrol from it, 25% diesel, about 20% jet fuel and heating oil, and the rest are things like gas, fuel oil, bitumen and petrochemicals and things like this. So effectively, diesel is only about a quarter of what comes out of the barrel, but demand for diesel, especially in Europe, is very high for lorries and vans and things. So apparently that imbalance pushes the price up. So diesel is in higher demand, and yet only a quarter of the barrel of each barrel of oil, about a quarter, is made into diesel. But in terms of the cost of it, it does seem to be that, diesel vehicles used to be in vogue, didn't they? We were all told to drive diesels about 15 years ago, and then suddenly it went the other way, didn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. I agree with you totally. But, it just seems to me, I've often asked the question, what is the point of us being a Crown dependency? Why not go What is the difference between being a Crown dependency and independent? It appears that our government is so answerable to everybody else. Why? Why have they got themselves into that sort of position where they can't make their own minds up what they want to do? Well, ours is the oldest government in the world, isn't it?
It's the oldest
down to everybody.
Yeah, it's the oldest parliament in the world. I mean, we could have a huge history lesson on the constitutional state of the Isle of Man, but effectively we were owned by the UK Crown. The Stanleys, effectively sold the Isle of Man to the UK Crown. So we're a Crown dependency, and we're allowed to self-govern ourselves. But there is a lot of stuff where we have signed agreements. The Customs and Excise Agreement with the UK, effectively our VAT refund, financially pays for, even after it got cut back in the late noughties, financially pays for a huge amount of government services, and it obviously is better off for the island than being out of it financially, is the argument, I suppose.
Possibly, but a lot of us don't see it that way.
No,
unfortunately.
I admit. I mean, what vehicles are you driving now, John? Are you caught up with this latest diesel increase?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I've got a diesel car, yeah.
And does it make you think twice about maybe in future going to, I don't know, either a more economical car or an EV, or would you like effectively the status quo to be resumed a little more when the markets calm down?
Well, actually, I did try. I've just changed back to a full diesel again.
Mm-hmm.
I did try a hybrid.
Yep.
And to be honest, it was a lovely car. It was a nice car, but I was disappointed with the fuel performance on it. And then you start thinking about batteries and as and when they're going to need replacing. How much is it going to cost you to get rid of the old ones? How much is it going to cost for new ones? So I decided to go back to just a straightforward diesel again. And in all honesty, I'm much happier with it than what I was with the hybrid.
Okay, well, it's a good, honest opinion on there. Thank you, John, and thank you very much for holding on the line as well with all those technical problems. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Cheers.
Cheers, Alex. Thanks. Bye.
Thanks. Lovely to speak to John there. And that is the explanation, really. You just get a limited percentage of diesel from each barrel of oil. Demand is very high, and refineries can't quickly change the percentages, which is why diesel often ends up more expensive than petrol at the pump. So thank you very much, John, for bringing that one to us. Let's go through a few more of your messages while we've got time at the end of the show. Paul says, no issue charging a tourist tax. It is charged in loads of countries. It's only about £10 per person, and as long as it actually goes to improving tourism on the island, it's a good idea. That's the biggie. The ring fence, because everyone always talks about vehicle tax, and it's not ring fence to go on the roads, is it? So bear that in mind, that what Treasury does with your money afterwards, you have no basically no control over. And they'll turn around and go, oh, yes, we promise we'll give it to you. And then a few years later, they decide that, well, we can siphon that off to something else. Anonymous texter says, please can any listener tell us how much of the price of diesel is now excise duty and VAT? Government must be surely rubbing their hands at the windfall extra income. But there will be the windfall extra income. But there is going to be additional cost. The government uses fuel as well in a number of its different areas. The DOI vehicles, when it comes to all different government departments, even heating government buildings. So there will be additional costs for government as well. And if it damages the economy, that's not good for government either. And Gaz says, Mr. Cannon, we don't need meaningless grandstanding statements about fuel prices. Make buses free during the crisis and stop all the roadworks holding up traffic and using more fuel. Well, it's a good point about, we don't want traffic jams. Thank you very much. Steve says, regarding driving less, how about not driving to coffee shops? Everyone's got something to do with coffee shops today. On Peel Road when we can pop the kettle on at home. And if we do need a flat, oily slab of so-called beef, wouldn't it be nice to see a younger family actually walking hand in hand to their favourite eating out establishment? Thank you. Thank you for that. I suppose it depends on where you live. Here we go. When it comes to, thank you to Chris, my producer, for digging this out. How much of the price of diesel is now excise duty and VAT? The texter wanted to know. Fuel duty on diesel is currently 52.9 pence per litre. and that rate is set in line with the UK, and it applies in the Isle of Man under the Customs and Excise Agreement. VAT at 20% is then added on top of the fuel price, including the duty. So in simple terms, fuel duty makes up roughly about 35 to 40% of the pump price, and then once VAT is added, total tax is usually just over 50% of what you pay per litre, depending on the oil price. Fuel duty itself has been frozen and cut by 5 pence a litre since 2022, but VAT is a percentage, so the amount of VAT collects, it rises automatically, obviously, when the fuel price goes up. So when diesel goes up, government VAT income goes up, even if duty is not increased. So there we go. Just over 50% of what you pay per litre is effectively tax and duty. So bear that in mind. What else have we got here? Texter 223 says, if we never had a hospice, Manx Care would have to cover the costs to look after someone dying, and it would cost more and take up more resources. I think this is what's going to become the debate, isn't it? That we, the public, want a hospice. It is run extremely well. It relies heavily on charitable giving, and is it a service that actually we, as the public, want the government to support more with our money? Or do you think it should continue to be a standalone charity? And if so, I can tell you now, charitable giving, people only give when they can. And the economy is not conducive to people having a lot of money to give to charities at the moment. So maybe it's time that the government has to cough up a bit more. Thank you very much to Amy, who says, why are you asking the public to sort out Manx Care and A&E? Have you not seen how much we pay for the NHS? Have you taken leave of your senses? My senses are most definitely here, Amy. But if you want A&E sorted, if it's not big enough and fit for purpose, we're going to have to pay for it. There is no magic money tree. Vanessa says, regarding difficulty getting a GP appointment, there is now a new minor operations clinic opened at Nobles Hospital near the A&E department. They deal with everyday problems. Excellent. Thank you very much for that. And, also Carol sent that in. Yes, the Nobles Hospital Minor Injury and Illness Unit, the MIU. It's a new walk-in service for people with minor injuries and illnesses not requiring the emergency department, or A&E as we know it. For more details on that, you can find that on Manx Care's website, or you can call 642-642 or email mcals@gov.im. That's it. Andy is back tomorrow. Thank you very much to my stalwart producer that is Chris Quirk. Christy D's up next. Have a lovely afternoon.